10 years after his improbable pioneering trip to space, Dennis Tito is still in orbit, in a way.
So I'm back there, and I go back, well, in my mind, I go back every day.
Back to the International Space Station, where he spent nearly a week blissfully gazing out the window, listening to opera music after plunking down a reported $20 million to become the world's first space tourist.
I started, of course, being very interested in space when Sputnik was launched in 1957, but it really was the launching of Yuri Gagarin in 1961, just about 50 years ago, that inspired me.
Then he met Eric Anderson, co-founder of Washington-based Space Adventures, which brokered rides to thrill-seekers on zero-G airplanes and high-performance fighters, along with visits to Star City, Russia. Anderson wasn't stopping there.
At that time, I would have bet 100 to 1 that the first space tourists would have been people who flew on suborbital vehicles.
But the Russians were nearly broke then. Desperate for cash, they told Anderson they would allow tourists to visit the then brand new International Space Station, which they were building in partnership with NASA. Dennis Tito ended up in the Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center in Star City after a successful career building an investment management company.
Here I was, a 60-year-old man without any really special training, and I thought it was going to be much more difficult, but I was willing to suffer through it, and even to my surprise, it was extraordinarily easy.
How much cooperation did you get from NASA?
Well, unfortunately, none.
NASA's reluctance aside, in the end the deal was brokered. On April 28, 2001, he flew into the space history books.
You never get tired of the view up there.
Never get tired of the view. I could have stayed up there for months. The only way I can describe the whole experience is euphoria for, let's say, 7 days, just being in a state of euphoria and sleeping like a baby.
From the moment he landed, he has been an outspoken advocate for creating a vibrant space tourism industry.
Whether they know it or not, it's going to be the best thing that ever happened to NASA.
Tito's flight certainly was the best thing ever to promote the idea of space tourism.
Dennis Tito, we must credit with being that person who helped create the real perception of the business model for space tourism.
It brought credibility, money, and attention to the Ansari X Prize, which offered $10 million to the first civilian team to build and fly a rocket to the edge of space. Telecom entrepreneur Anusha Ansari had sponsored the X Prize, thinking she would one day realize her lifelong dream to fly in space on a suborbital mission. But she ended up going much higher and farther. In 2006, she became the first female space tourist.
The first time I saw Earth, it just brought tears to my eyes, and it wasn't because I was sad, or it was just an indescribable feeling of being part of something much bigger, and feeling somehow life emanating from our planet, and just watching it from a distance.
No arguments from her fellow space tourists. Video gaming mogul Richard Garriott became the 6th space tourist in 2008.
Space travel is fun at every level. The training was great fun. The launch was, not at all scary like you might think. It was a true joy. Re-entry, a true joy. But the best joy of all is living and operating in space. What a great time to, literally, live like Superman. You are floating around or flying around and feeling mighty powerful 24 hours a day.
Ansari likens the commercialization of space and the realignment at NASA to the breakup of AT&T in the 1980s.
It wasn't something that happened overnight. The old company fought that, tooth and nail. And change always comes, at a price, and it's difficult. But I think it's a transition that is necessary, and it will happen. The ball has already started rolling, and I don't think anyone can stop it now.
So what lies ahead in the next decade? The suborbital tourism business seems poised to take off, but Anderson predicts a vibrant business in orbit as well.
I think 10 years from now, several hundred commercial orbital passengers will have been to space.
But Anderson and Space Adventures believe tourism is just the start of a grand vision to create a thriving and diverse space economy for the good of all mankind.
It is ultimately about the survival of the species. We have to develop space. And I'm not saying it has to happen by the year 2050 or 2060. Over the next millennium, let's say we have to develop space. Whether it's a super virus, whether it's a nuclear catastrophe, whether it's an asteroid that hits the Earth, or whether it's just running out of resources on a planet whose population is ever growing, we have to bring the solar system into our economic sphere of influence. I mean, out there lies the answer to our problems. And in order to harness that, in order to use those resources, we have to be able to go there and operate.
Space Adventures even has a plan to send paying passengers to the moon. Alice?
I love space.
As for the man who started it all, he's happy just to savor his ride for the ages.
It gave me a sense of completeness and calmness, like there's nothing more to prove. I've done what I really wanted to do, and I've successfully completed it. So everything else in life is going to be a bonus.
It's a tough one to top, no doubt. But the industry he helped propel beyond the snicker factor and the 6 other private citizens who have so far followed in his footsteps owe him a debt of gratitude as the private spaceflight business soars to a new level. I'm Miles O'Brien.